So you're wondering why you're going through it. Or maybe you're even wondering why you've gone through it. Whichever be the case, whether you've gone through it or you're going through it, I want to let you know it has happened and it is happening for a reason. There's a reason behind what you're going through and why you're going through it. Whether you believe in it or not, well, I suppose I'll give you my opinion why I do believe in it. Even if it's a very painful experience that you're going through. I want to let you know that if you have the idea, like I used to have the idea, that it's God who's toying with you, you're like God's punching bag. He gets off somehow on watching you suffer. He gets his thrills off of it. He enjoys watching you suffer. I can assure you that those things are just emotions, or perhaps even lies that somebody had taught to you. It's not the truth. We've all gone through different things, and we're all going through different things. And it affects us different ways. Your life is like a puzzle. Eventually, all those pieces, when they fit together and you take a step back and you look at that puzzle, you see how every piece was meant to be in that puzzle called your story. Every piece was meant to be in that puzzle. You're not missing any pieces. And there's not just these extra pieces laying around like, oh, where did those come from? Now, this might be just my personal belief, okay? But I want to share it with you then if it is. Maybe it's my way of helping myself to cope. Because when I go through things that don't make sense, well, I personally like to make sense of them. Even if I don't understand why I am going through it at the time, eventually everything I've gone through starts to make sense. I mean, there are some things that it's like, oh my goodness, there's things I'm humiliated about in my life, you guys. There's things that I did go through that I'm humiliated about that still kind of don't make sense to me. There are things that I never want to share with anybody except for God himself because I'm so ashamed. Not ashamed as far as I have shame and condemnation in me. Those battles, I realize the Lord won those battles for me. I don't have to try to fight those battles and be victorious over them anymore. He's won the battle. Although, even though he did win that battle, there will be people in your life that come back and remind you of what you did in the past. They remember because they were there. Or they remember because they heard the rumors about you. Not things that you're proud of. I hope you're not proud of them. Especially if those rumors are true and they're pretty bad. I wouldn't think you're proud of them. Somebody that's actually proud of them, that's a different type of person, right? For those people, they need a miracle in their life, right? They really need a miracle. Because some people that are so narcissistic that they never have any accountability in their lives. Some people are so narcissistic that they get off on just taking from others, no matter what that taking means. And they only give to get something in return. But the one thing they never, ever do is apologize in a sincere way, because they don't have accountability in their lives. Narcissism reminds me of a story about this guy named Joseph in the book of Genesis in the Bible. He dealt with somebody that was a full-on narcissist. And it just so happened to be a female. As if his life wasn't bad enough. Okay, let me just go from the beginning. Joseph, there was 12 brothers. His dad's name was Jacob. And these brothers, a bunch of them, they all had different moms. Not all of them had different moms, but there was 4 different women, I believe. Yeah. 4 different women that were the mothers to the sons of what we call Israel, Jacob. He had 12 sons. The 2 moms you remember are Rachel, Rachel in Hebrew, Rachel, and Leah. You remember the story, right? Jacob really, he wanted Rachel for his wife. But first he had to take Leah. And you got to feel for Leah because, you know, she felt like she was the unloved one, of course. And Rachel is the one that he was more fond of. But Rachel, she wasn't having kids for him, and Leah started having children, and so Rachel she had a female servant. So she got her female servant. She talked her husband, Jacob, into sleeping with her female servant so the female servant could have babies and produce children for Rachel. And Leah was having babies, and then Leah got her servant to have babies, and then eventually Rachel starts having kids, but she only had 2. She had the 11th and the 12th son of Jacob, Israel. And the 11th son, you know me, I really like that number 11. And the 11th son's name was Joseph. And Joseph, his name means increase or multiply. Increase, multiply. Okay? So Joseph is this young boy, and his dad makes him this special coat that had all these different colors on it. The coat of many colors. And Joseph has a dream. They call him the dreamer. And he tells his brothers about this dream. And they're like, what are you saying? Are you saying we're going to all bow down to you someday? You're going to be our king. We're going to worship you. Because according to the dream, it surely seemed like that's what was going to happen. They got sick of this little punk. So one day these brothers plotted together and they faked Joseph's death. They threw him in a pit, stripped him of his coat of many colors, put blood all over it from an animal, took it back to their father and said, hey, Joseph was killed by a wild animal. When really they put him in a pit and then they sold him off to these guys that were looking for slaves to buy. So they purchased Joseph, just like Judas sold out Jesus. Joseph's brothers sell him out. The story of Joseph and Jesus, you can call Jesus our heavenly Joseph. Really, it's so similar. There's so much to this story that just blows me away. You see so much of not only what has happened to Jesus, but what is also going to happen in the future. So young Joseph, who was Daddy's favorite, is now counted as dead. You think his brothers think, oh, he's going to go live a great life? Or do you think his brothers are thinking, you know what, he's going to wind up dead, but let those guys kill him. We don't have to. So they tell their dad, look, Dad, Joseph's dead. Got his clothes. It's proof, evidence. And it breaks his dad's heart, and his dad is wrecked from it. And now young Joseph is sold into slavery. But you know, he finds favor with this guy named Potiphar. This guy named Potiphar actually hires Joseph to come work for him in his very own home. Now, Potiphar is not the Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the ruler of Egypt, where Joseph is, where he's been brought. The Pharaoh. Potiphar's not the Pharaoh. Just like Pontius Pilate was not the Caesar. But anyhow, so Joseph is now finds favor with this guy that's his boss, Potiphar, and Potiphar has a wife that has eyes for Joseph. And one day she comes on to him and comes on to him strong. She wants to have sex with him. And Joseph, hey man, he's got hormones. He's a male. He's a good looking guy. But he doesn't go for it. And he says, no way. And she's trying to grab him, like, no, you stay. And she pulls his shirt, whatever he was wearing, he pulled it off of him. Joseph gets away. But then she goes with Joseph's clothes and says, hey, look, I got evidence. That guy tried to rape me. And Potiphar is super angry because he takes his wife's word over Joseph. Now, she never tells him, hey, I was lying. She never takes accountability for her actions at all. Puts all the blame on Joseph. If she doesn't get what she wants, well, then she's going to make sure he goes down. And that's a narcissist. She's definitely a biblical narcissist. Joseph does the right thing. Joseph gets punished for it. He's innocent. What happens? Go to prison, buddy. So now he's locked up in prison. Meets up with some guys in prison. They tell him about a dream, these dreams that they have. He interprets the dreams for them. The dreams come true. The interpretation comes true. The interpretation of the dreams come true. Long story short, the Pharaoh, he has these disturbing dreams, these things that he saw in his dream that really bother him. And he wants his dream interpreters to interpret these dreams for him. And if they don't get the dream interpretation right, he's going to have them killed. Which eventually somebody says, hey, wait, we know a guy. So they take Joseph out of prison to bring him before the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh explains the dream. Joseph says, here's the interpretation of your dream. There is going to be a time of plenty, but then there's going to be a time of famine. During the time of plenty, you're going to want to save up. Kind of do like being a prepper. You're going to want to prep for this time. So what we do is we store away all this supply, and then what happens is when the time of famine comes, we'll have enough not only for Egypt and everybody in Egypt, but we're going to have enough for all the other nations. And they'll come buy from us, and you'll make a profit off of this. And it all ends up being true. And Joseph is appointed as the guy under Pharaoh, of course. So now Joseph is in charge. He doesn't look nothing like an Israelite anymore. He looks like a Pharaoh. And so one day Joseph's brothers travel to Egypt because they are living in famine. And their father's old and he doesn't make the trip, so these guys travel to Egypt to try to see if they can buy some food. And they don't recognize Joseph, but he recognizes them. Now Joseph has a little fun with everything for a little bit. Does a couple things to them until they get super scared that they might lose their lives. But he was trying to see if they had changed at all. And he recognized that these men were heartbroken about what they had done to their brother Joseph. Because Joseph was going to take the youngest brother from them, Benjamin. And these guys are like, we can't let that happen because it'll break our father's heart. Take one of us instead. Our father already lost one son. We don't want him to lose another. And they know it's their fault. And Joseph, he just can't stand it anymore. And he reveals himself to them. They did not recognize him at all. They had left him for dead. And they all cry and have a massive reunion again. Just like so many don't recognize who Jesus is at all today. They don't recognize him for who he is and for who he wants to be for them. But he'll unveil himself to them. And they're going to realize that he's full of grace. Joseph tells his brothers, you know what, you guys, I had to go through this because it led me to where I am today. Because he invited his family to come and stay there with him in Egypt. Bring dad, bring everybody, bring everything that's yours. And this place of plenty, this bountiful place will be yours. you'll be royalty because you're my family. What an amazing story. Joseph had to go through what he went through to get him to where he was at that time. And he let his family know that, and he realized that. And you might not know why you're going through what you're going through, or why you went through why you went through what you did, but let me assure you, you're being prepared for something that is great. And you're going to endure through some times where others are feeling hopeless because they put their trust in other things instead of the one worthy of trust, Jesus. But you put your trust in Jesus. And even though you are suffering and wondering, why am I going through this? Does he even care? Does he love me? Is he even watching over me? Am I his punching bag? But there will come the time you'll realize it was all for a reason. He was with you all along, and he was preparing you. Because where others feel like there is no hope, and they're scared, and they don't know what to do, and they're experiencing famine, you are going to be the one that will provide whatever it is you provide. Deliverance in many different ways, supply in many different ways. Somebody that can understand what they're going through, somebody that can truly be there for them. So don't give up, you guys. Don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Don't think that your life doesn't matter. Don't think that it's just worthless, and what you're going through might not make sense right now. But trust me, you're going through it for a reason. You are being refined. Your mind is changing. Your character is building. You are getting stronger, and you're realizing that all this stuff that you were attached to at one time in your life, even if it was people and things, you're realizing all that stuff means nothing compared to having Jesus in your life. And you're learning that Jesus is nothing like others think he should be. Because there's so many others that wouldn't recognize Jesus at all if he showed up. Just like Joseph's very own brothers didn't even recognize him. So many don't recognize who Jesus really is. But you're getting to know him more and more, aren't you? And there's nothing like knowing him. All right, guys, I got to get going. I love you. I hope this message has blessed you. Hope you have a great one. And I'll see you all next time.